You know the drill, right? Your company rolls out some brand new, supposedly game-changing software that's going to make everything better. But fast forward a few months, and it's just sitting there, collecting digital dust, while everyone just sticks to the old way of doing things. Why does that happen over and over again? Well, that's the big puzzle we're going to try to solve today.
So what is the secret sauce? What's the thing that actually gets us to switch gears and use a new tool? Is it just because our boss says so? Or maybe because the person in the cubicle next to us is using it? This isn't just some random academic question, you know? The answer to this affects how productive we are, and frankly, how frustrated we get at work every single day. To get some answers, the research we're diving into for this explainer takes us all the way to the UAE. It's a place that's just exploding with growth and modernization, which makes it the perfect real-world lab to see how people are actually dealing with all this new tech being thrown at them. Okay, so let's get specific. The researchers focus on a field called digital facility management. And in plain English, that's basically using smart technology. We're talking sensors, data, automation, the whole shebang, to run buildings better. Think of things like smart lighting that adjusts on its own, or getting an alert that the AC needs maintenance before it breaks in the middle of a heat wave. It's an area where new tech is popping up all the time.
Now, you can't solve a puzzle this big without a plan, right? The researchers didn't just go in blind and start asking random questions. No, they used a really solid, established theory as their blueprint to figure out what really, truly makes us tick when it comes to new technology.
And here is that blueprint. It's called the Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology, or let's just call it UTAUT for short. And I know what you're thinking when you see this. Whoa, that's a lot of boxes and arrows. And you're not wrong. This is the heavy-duty academic model they started with. It's designed to map out pretty much every reason you could think of for why we might use a new piece of tech.
But don't get bogged down by all those lines, because at its heart, this whole complicated theory really just boils down to 4 simple questions we all ask ourselves. First, performance expectation. Is this thing actually going to help me do my job better? Second, effort expectation. Is this going to be a huge pain to learn and use? Third, social influence. You know, is my boss or my team really pushing me to do this? And finally, facilitating conditions. Do I even have the training, the time, and the support to make this work?
Okay, so armed with that framework, the researchers went out to talk to the people who are actually in the trenches, making these decisions every day. Let's take a look at who they talked to.
So how many people are we talking about? 407. Yep, they got answers from 407 different facility managers all across the UAE. That is a really solid number, which gives their findings some serious credibility.
And who were these managers? Well, when you look at the gender breakdown, it's pretty interesting. It was almost a 50-50 split between men and women, which is awesome for getting a really well-rounded view of things.
Now, this slide here is actually super important. They didn't just talk to the big bosses. They got a great mix of top-level executives, middle managers, and a whole lot of first-line supervisors. This mix of different levels of management is crucial, and trust me, it turns out to be a really big deal later on.
All right, the stage is set. We've got the theory, we've got the data from over 400 managers. Now comes the fun part, decoding all that information to see what it tells us. This is where the mystery really starts to unfold.
So the first thing they did was just ask managers, hey, what are you most worried about when it comes to new digital tools? And the number one answer, right there at the top, was implementation challenges. Before they even got to the cool features, their biggest headache was the practical, nitty-gritty stuff, just getting the new system up and running.
But they didn't just stop there. See, finding out what really predicts if someone will use a new tool isn't about what they say is important. So the researchers put all that data through a super rigorous 3-round analysis to filter out all the noise and find the hidden signals that actually drive our behavior.
So, after round 1, things are still looking pretty complicated. It's kind of a mess, right? You've got all these different factors, like gender and your job level, connected all over the place. They're starting to get closer, but the real, clear answer isn't there just yet.
But then we get to round 2, and the picture starts getting a lot sharper. See how it's cleaning up? And notice what's missing? Those social influence and facilitating conditions factors, they've completely dropped out. The analysis is starting to zero in on what actually matters.
And finally, after round 3, boom! There it is. That's our answer. Look at how clean that is. All of that complexity from the original theory has been stripped away. What we're left with is this simple, elegant, and really powerful model that shows us the core things that predict whether or not we'll actually use new tech at work.
So we have this really neat final model, But what does it actually mean for you, for me, for that next big software rollout at your office? Let's break down what this thing is really telling us.
I mean, the researchers themselves put it perfectly. After testing everything, two factors emerged as the absolute heavyweights: performance expectation and effort expectation. In other words, our decision to use a new tool and whether we actually end up using it is almost entirely driven by two things. Do we think it will help us, and do we think it will be easy?
So here's the bottom line. It all boils down to two golden rules. Rule number 1, make it useful. You have to show people in very real terms how this new thing will make their job better. Not just different, but better. And rule number 2, make it easy. It can't be a pain to use. If it creates more work than it saves, forget it. Usefulness and ease, they are the king and queen here.
But, and this is the real kicker, the part that most companies completely miss, those two golden rules don't mean the same thing to everybody. Your job title totally changes how you see things. As you can see here, a top-level manager, they're thinking about usefulness for the entire company. But a first-line manager, someone on the ground, for them, it's all about the daily grind. Is the effort I have to put into this thing worth the reward I get out of it? This is exactly why a tool that sounds brilliant in the boardroom can completely flop on the front lines.
And that leaves us with a final thought for you to take back to your own job. The next time a new piece of tech gets introduced where you work, look at it through this new lens. Ask yourself, what's the real barrier going to be here? Is it that people aren't convinced it's actually useful? Or is the real problem that it's just not easy enough to use? Something to think about.